a little bit untypical for some of the Chinese players, but he will get emotional, and that could have an effect on his overall performance, Tetra.
That does sound like some other tanks from some other regions that we know of, so we'll see if he can continue to grow and progress as we are heading to Battlefield of Eternity as our next map. Another team with a 100% win rate to join the ranks of SPT. BTG looking to recover themselves some points, bring the score up to a 2-2 with the Battlefield here, but this was a SOA map choice, right?
I think so, because I don't think Beyond the Game wants to give up first pick. Yeah, there we go.
SOA map choice. So SOA picking a 100% win rate map for BTG when they only have 50%.
Huh. So they must, of course, have done a little bit of research. So maybe they have something special prepared for their opponents here for Beyond the Game. Keep in mind, guys, this is the best of 5 series. So one more victory is all that Team SOA needs to advance and duke it out between themselves and the one who are patiently waiting for their first opponent. Now, Hanzo already being secured by Team Beyond the Game. I don't think that comes with a big surprise. It's one of his better battlegrounds, if not the best battleground, especially for W build.
We see with the W build being able to give them race potential. We see counter race potential coming in from SOA, the Greymane, and the Malfurion coming in, stealing the Malfurion away. He's not so much effective in terms of race. That would be Rhaegar if we're talking about race-based support.
Kharazim,
maybe Kharazim, yeah, as you said. But Malfurion is really solid on this map because there is a fair amount of choke points. The center of the map, which is where most of the fights happen, is full of like little bits of terrain, little rocks, vents, etc. So being able to drop those roots in them can be very effective for zoning in general, and of course, just refreshing the mana of your poke-based heroes.
Yeah, and speaking of refreshing mana, Tetra, you brought up a good point, because Malfurion is one of the best healers when it comes to sustained healing, and the longer your support stays in good mana and maybe even keeps his allies' mana bar up juicy and healthy as well, the longer you can fight around an immortal. Whereas if you pick a support like, let's say, Rhaegar or Uther, who are way more mana consuming and mana hungry, oftentimes when Uther is out of juice, your team has to fall back, and that could potentially mean that you're going to have to give up the immortal altogether. So I love this pick. I love this Malfurion here coming in, and I'm not sure about the Uther altogether.
The Uther is always safe, always fair.
Yeah.
But it does open the opportunity for SOA to go for something else. Another mage, for example, with a little bit more AoE.
That's what I want to see here, to be honest.
Dan would be perfect. Even the return of Lunara might not be the worst, but Tyrael could be the cover for that.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate it. As you said, though, there is a good source of extra protection with the Tyrael. Gul'dan, while it isn't traditionally his strongest map because of his lack of single-target DPS, he's got good poke. He's oftentimes overshadowed by Li Ming here. However, Uther is a little stronger against the Li Ming burst. Tyrael on top of that as well, of course. And a good Horrify, let's face it, can definitely have good value against heroes on Battlefield of Eternity as well. So, as I said, I wouldn't hate a Lunara, I wouldn't hate a Gul'dan. It all comes down to how comfortable SOA's assassin players feel on the respective heroes, because right now, with a match point and the chance to advancing, you definitely want to make sure that everybody's bringing their A game. No time for experiments here.
Exactly. Risks, it's such a fun mindset to get yourself into of when is it okay to take a risk? Like, do you do it in the last game, where a cheeky pick that catches your opponent off guard could be what gets it to you? But that would still be taking a risk because you're moving away from the established meta, which could lower your chances. That mindset always fascinates me. Like, Heroes is a great game for it, like getting those different strategies where you pick something a little bit off. StarCraft is great for it. We had a really fun game in the last couple weeks, actually, where two Protoss players went against each other and both picked Dark Shrines just at the same time, and then just backdoored each other and tried to kill each other's base, and neither had observers. So that ended up with a huge fight over who could kill the buildings quickest, which was fairly amusing. But it's always that situation where, okay, this is the first game of a series, we can do that. But then in the last game as well. It's that kind of mindset of when is it okay to, not so much cheese, but when is it okay to be sneaky?
Okay, and here goes the Northrend tank line that Beyond the Game just tried to make work in the previous game, but failed to do so successfully. And it looks like SOA is going to tell them to basically teach them how it's done right. But, I mean, BOE is a much better map for Arthas than Sky Temple, in my opinion. And especially a Nubrak can really chain those stuns together when there's another stun zone of the Immortal. But I'm a little bit worried now for So there is a lot of kiting already. There's a lot of movement speed enhancement involving the Tyrael and Hanzo as well there. Well, I don't know, Tetra, what do you think about this Arthas now?
I like Arthas in general, for starters. I will preface by saying that. And he does offer reasonable immortal damage for a tank. His laning, on the other hand, unless heroes are very far forward in that bot lane or in the top lane and get themselves caught out, he's not going to gain too much there. Also, against this composition right now with the extra movement speed of Tyrael, BTG don't have anyone that would, say, stack up the stacking level 4 talent for him.
Yeah. And there goes
now they do.
Malthael. Malthael, a hero that you can never count out of any BoE game. Strong immortal damage, good solo laning phase there, and tank shredding galore against heroes like Arthas or Anub'arak. And we don't really know who's going to take that solo lane in the top lane against Malthael. Right now, it could be an Anub'arak, it could be a Greymane as well, which basically would require another strong DPS to get the kills in the 4-man. And Tetra, we have seen a little bit of Thrall yesterday in the Open Division Europe with a Crash Lightning build.
We did, and it was surprisingly effective. I'm not sure how well it would work here, but I think Earthquake could be pretty decent against the Muradin. However, right now I'm leaning very much towards Tychus due to the tank shredding abilities, and he could try. It would be difficult, but he could try and solo lane against the Malthael just due to extra range. Lunara would also still... It's possible. Ooh. That was unexpected.
Very unexpected, actually. Now, if you remember Soa's performance in the League phase, last year and this year as well, they are no strangers to playing the Zarya in almost any given composition on almost any given map. However, this is a little bit strange right now because it would mean that either Arthas or Anub'arak are now solo laning against Malthael, which is doable but not easy. And also it limits their damage capabilities a little bit, but by the same token, it adds a lot of additional protection.
Is there a setup they could duo lane? It would have to be like a tank and Zarya, right?
The problem is their wave clear is very limited, I think. Now, Team Beyond the Game, they don't have the most massive of wave clear themselves, so maybe if they played smart Team Soa, that is, they can do it. But the Zarya is a risky pick on paper, a comfort pick for Team Soa as a whole, though.
Yeah, that's true. They are very solid on Zarya in general. The zone control it offers them, considering they already have 2 tanks, is pretty good. She can give crazy damage. Feel the heat on Immortals, especially. If you're able to get full energy, aka you're raiding an enemy's Immortal, then you are going to have an amazing time. Siege damage for days. Until then, though, you are so reliant on Greymane.
Exactly, and that's a lot of pressure on the shoulders of Greymane for sure. He's going to be the main DPS. He's going to have to execute people as well. And if there's a player, though, that can make it work, maybe it's the new guy. Maybe it's Sori. I mean, he played super well in all those games we saw him in. And I'm very positive on him having the guts and the balls to do it. Now, we're going to introduce the players once more here in what could be the last game of the series if Team Soa ends up winning it. With Faye on the Anub'arak, Uncle G is playing Zarya, TY is switching it up to the Malfurion, Klong is going main tank on the Arthas, and Sori on the Greymane.
And on the right-hand side, it is Beyond the Game, with Druid on Uther, 619 on Muradin, ZJZ on Tyrael, LLK on Malthael, and Dancing is playing the Hanzo. Currently, it is Soa in the lead in a 2-1, 1 game away from going on to play against the one for that position in the Eastern Clash. And we're going to see an immediate push onto the top lane. Anub does not rumble the members of BTG here. As such, this is scouted. Uncle G dropping down, and first blood. There we go. Mouth's not able to heal up enough. That's going to be first and second, and potentially third blood if they can catch Klong in the first minute of the game. And that is great for BTG. I mean, this is going to take a pretty long time, even without the sustain. Arthas is tanky. They're still able to kill him off before the first minute of the game.
So, not like this. It was too predictable. You pick a Zarya, the enemy team knows exactly that you're most likely going to try and push in some towers as 4. I mean, they didn't even get a single tower there. The interception squad of Beyond the Game was too fast and too lethal, and that is an absurd amount of experience that they just gave to their opponents. Already have a level lead for Beyond the Game. Hanzo scouting the Mercenary sneak attack. Good shield by Zarya, though. But yeah, so Team Soa just needs to play a little bit less predictive here at this point, I think.
Yeah, but to be fair, they did actually attempt to adjust to that riskiness in terms of play. They had a Nubarak sitting in the center of the map, trying to see it, but BTG just made the guess. Like, correct move in that kind of situation when you think, like the quote-unquote correct move when you're in that kind of situation for a lot of teams, is to go into mid when you think your opponents are going to push, and that way you have the immediate adjustment of which lane you want to rotate into. However, BTG decided to react differently. They didn't decide to go mid and react to the quicker one. They just decided to guess, and they guessed right. Top was the lane that was being pushed.
It's also interesting to see who they're going to send in that soul lane right now. Beyond the Game, they realize, you know what, Anubrek isn't the most scariest of pusher. It's not a Blaze, you know, it's not a Thrall, for example. So we're going to send Turiel in there because Turiel should be able to deal with him. And we're going to have Malthael, a much harder hitting hero. Beautiful cocktail there, by the way, hitting 4 members. We're going to send Malthael in the 4-man lane to have a better defense because we need to keep those heroes at bay. Now, up to this point, it's not really working out that well. So they have stabilized and rejuvenated and recovered from the early blows they had to endure.
It's about to, though. Look at Malthael's level 4. He doesn't need Die Alone anymore. He's able to pick up a kill and now has Black Harvest. So his damage output, being able to stack on 4 heroes instead of 1, is going to get crazy a lot quicker.
Here we go. And Greymane getting a little too far ahead of himself here, dying to all that pressure and all that damage that Hanzo plus Malthael had to offer. It is now a level 5 lead, almost still half a level. The Bruiser camp, the Fallen Shaman camp, has been taken already, while Soa didn't even try to start it. That's going to be a big factor as well. Fei dropping low on mana, so is CJZ, though. This is a battle of the non-soul laners, if you will.
This is true. They're not really made for this role, but they are doing it well enough. They're holding the lanes against each other. Tyrell's pushing up a little bit better, but Nubarak now, especially that he has his bed of barbs, is actually a little bit better in terms of the wave clear. It's one of his best wave clear talents that he has before, like the just burning rage or maybe the earthquake spines, but still pretty good as the race continues, and it's fairly even at the moment.
Yeah, the race continues, but Beyond the Game is now willing to defend this. Murder jumping into the fray, supported by his alliance brother, causing so much distraction that the rest of his team is actually going to get the Immortal successfully. Now, 619 needs to be careful. Second wind healing hasn't really kicked in just yet. Soa is furious. They're trying to make something happen, but they can't, and the first Immortal getting taken by their opponents.
Very good distraction, and the fact that 619 actually lived that is pretty beastly. I'm very surprised. But good job. Great moves coming in here by Beyond the Game as they begin to push in. Remember, if Beyond the Game lose this, they are out of contention for the Eastern Clash. So Soa on the defense here, trying to keep their hopes alive and try and keep themselves in contention, whereas BTG are fighting for survival.
Problem for Soa was they basically put all the eggs in one basket. They really tried to get this Immortal. They didn't do so. And as such, the Mercenary camp dealing tremendous amounts of damage on that top lane as well. Good save on Sori, who is almost getting caught again here, using the healing fountain to rejuvenate himself. Now, can they do something against the onslaught of Beyond the Game? Nope. They end up escaping, almost taking down the fort. Huge damage done. And this early game is all going Beyond the Game's way.
Yeah, they're looking dominant at this point, and that's I don't know if Hanzo stacked on Redemption yet. They have not shown, as the shield is dropped onto Klong, able to protect him from at least a little bit of that Malthael damage. The laning setup continues to remain the same, but now you can see Anubarak is the one who is pushed up top lane, as opposed to Tyrael in the early game before the Bed of Barbs came in, where Tyrael had pushed up bot lane pretty hard.
Speed barrier really solid, helping TY and the Malthurian out to escape the claws and fangs of 619, who's jumping in over the wall and engaging for his team.
Trying to move forward, a lovely route by Malfurion. The anti-healing dropped by Malthael here, preventing that sustain, but the health bars drop down, and Soa pick up 2, looking for a third. The Scatter Arrow gets some good value, but it's not enough to finish the job, as we see Soa getting a triple kill in this bot lane, looking for a 4th up in the top lane, but Fei lacks the damage output to do so.
And that was all Klong, ladies and gentlemen. Look how speedy he is with that speed barrier coming in from Zarya. Klong, massive value there in that narrow choke point with Arthas, Frozen Tempest, and a 3-man Howling Blast there, nailing everyone down and allowing Zarya to deal terrible, terrible damage onto the backline and frontline alike. So, for the first time in this game, things are going well for Team Soa, and that was so important for them.
With LLK taking up residence in the top lane temporarily while Tyrael isn't there, who knows, that might actually be permanent. He might live there as Tyrael at the moment is heading towards the mid lane to join his team for the immortal fight.
And this time, the Bruiser camp will push in favor of Soa as well. They didn't sleep on it this time around. The defense is getting ready for Beyond the Game. They're still slightly leading experience as well. With the early level 10, they could maybe force a team fight here, Tetra.
619 getting slowed and rooted. Here's the target. The root chain. Arthas into Malfurion. So effective, but where's the damage output coming in? Greymane was not ready, and Nubrak wasn't ready for the next stun. Another beautiful root by Arthas. He's been on point with these Klong. So impressive here. Druid able to escape the slows though and make his way back to the safety of his base.
There's a reason why Klong went for the root quest at level 1, trying to get stacks here, because he's landing almost all of them. Here goes Shields. The fort is almost hitting on Soa as well, but here they go with 5 people. Malthael is still on the way.
The Dragon Arrow was good. They're moving in Sanctification so that they can try and force their way as BTG forcing their way forward, but they have to turn around to pop the cocoon to get Malthael out. He's one of their big tools here as he has the Tormented Souls moving into the backline, hitting all 5 members here as they try to fight their way through Soa, who refuse to die. They keep tanking. The healing reduction is good though. Both teams back and forth fighting as 619 and ZJZ though run out of health. Sorry, tries to get Tyrael. Finally does. Goes down in the process to a 1-for-1. Now goes TY as well. Finally, the Tyrael explosion is the turnaround that BTG needed. They pick up 3 kills for 1.
BTG turning it around big time. Hanzo is not done just yet, but the range is not there. And it was so close. Hanzo really baited Greymane. He baited Sori into attacking him. The range wasn't enough. The go for the throat was not ready just yet. He tried to use the tower wall as a gap closer, and even then it wasn't enough, and that led to the demise of Greymane, ultimately carrying down his team there as well. Beautifully done. Soa was so close to winning that, but Beyond the Game just being beyond of their opponents in this team fight.
That looked so good for Soa for so long. And once that Sank was down, you can see the health bars just getting deleted. But instead of focusing at 619 or the Tyrael, which would have been potentially more ideal, like you said, went for Hanzo, and it wasn't enough. The bait was good.
The expulsion zone is not landing at all. Team Beyond the Game already separating and splitting themselves and forcing Team Soa to now defend their own Immortal at all costs here. No more expulsion zone, but they started the Mercamp nonetheless. Also, the Cocoon just needs to hit on Malthael when he drops the Tormented Souls. It would use a little bit too early last time.
The fight over the Mercenary camp. Noob moving in. They try to get the stun. Dragon Arrow does not get a huge amount of duration. The Tormented Souls, though, shredding the members. But Soa surviving it with the Tranquility for the moment, even with all that healing reduction. Tanking through 619. Trying to move on to the camp, but instead gets himself killed off. There we go. Greymane into position to finish the job on 619. 3 kills. The counter triple kill coming in from Soa.
The counter disaster. It was literally Beyond the Game's game. All they had to do was play it a little bit more patiently, just poke down the Immortal. Instead, they let themselves get baited into taking and fighting for the Mercenary camp this time around. Look at the value. Look at the healing from TY on that Malfurion. The anti-healing was popped here, but Malfurion doesn't really suffer from that too much because his healing is going to continue ticking anyways. And here goes LLK. Sorry, now definitely going for the right target, finishing it off, and 619 just barely almost surviving, but in the end it was not enough, and this Immortal goes over to Team Soa now.
Yeah, the anti-healing, as you said, it came out, but it was right at the tail end of the Tranquility. It got the full duration, but Tranquility really kept them alive through the initial burst of BTG, which was a huge problem. The Tormented Souls, it's hitting 5 people basically every time, and still not getting the value. Sora taking a fight, down a Heroic every time because the Expulsion Zone doesn't hit. They get like 5-man Dragon Arrowed and 5-man Tormented Souls every time, and they're still winning fights.
They're still winning fights, very true. And we once again have to mention the accuracy, the precision of Klong on those Howling Blasts. They land almost every single time, hitting at least 2 or 3 members. The value of this Arthas, I was questioning it before the game started. Now I take back my words with pleasure and say that Klong is a machine on that hero.
They move forward, looking for the opportunity. Another route is landed. 619 trying to force something, at least one away from the portal. Muradin tanking through, buying his team time, jumps into the route. Dragon Arrow does not get a huge duration because once again, very short range. Tormented Souls into the backline. Tyrael is dead before Sang comes back. The explosion's good though. A nice cocoon onto Uther to buy them some time as BTG is still trying to force something, but they can't as Uther goes down again, and 619 shall fall in the process.
So much healing, so much protection there by Zarya and Malfurion. It's just almost impossible for Beyond the Game to kill anyone. Dancing is trying his hardest. Malthael is trying really hard with the Tormented Souls as well, but they can't seem to make it. Is this a core call, Tetcher?
They're going to go for it. They have a lot of energy here on the Zarya. She is at full energy. Uncle G pushing forward. Sorry's dropped low. This is the opportunity to retreat. Sank is back. They can't risk it. And in fact, they may lose Faye here anyway. Speed barrier. Never mind. Nice save there by Uncle G. But the rest of the team, they're still in retreat. CJZ, he is not done with you.
CJZ is ruthless and angrily chasing after their opponents. The holy ground not separating them though. Good retreat by Team Soa, but for a moment I was starting to get really worried because they tried to, or they really made this push look serious.
As we see top lane getting cleared up nice and quickly by BTG, able to shred through that Khazra camp, and that will put some pressure onto the top lane, at least take some pressure off as there will now be catapults in that top lane due to that keep kill.
Ooh, let's take a breather here, Tetra, because those teams are not giving us many breaks. There's constant team fighting going on, constant back and forth between those teams, exchanging blows. And I gotta say, oh, by the way, Wisdom Duelist, we didn't even talk about that. 17 stacks already on the Greymane, increasing his damage, especially while in Worgen form, tremendously. And you can really see how he's having an easier and easier time shredding targets like Malthael or Hanzo.
Yeah, as the game goes on, it will become a lot easier for him. This is the go-to talent these days, as a Fort is killed by BTG. That is huge, a big boosted XP. Neither team's going to be level 16 because the Immortal's already started, but it's very close for Soa, so they can try and soak it at least before the Immortal phase finishes, which they can then try and force a fight.
Look at what Faye is doing here. He's trying to basically get them level 16. He's trying to pave the way for the catapults to pressure Beyond the Game. So, oh, that route could be deadly. There goes the cleanse. It had to be done.
Yeah, that was not even a self-cleanse. He didn't go for the self-cleanse. He went for the Memento Mori.
Alright, what is Soa now going to do? More catapults pressuring, so Beyond the Game is going to send at least 1 or 2 heroes to deal with that, and that could be the golden time window for Team Soa to close it out on the Immortal. They're trying to get every ounce of efficiency into this there as well, taking away the mercenary camp under the noses of Beyond the Game. Another source of distraction, and now I think they're going to transition over to the Immortal. This could very well go Soa's way, and with the next Immortal, especially if it's healthy Tetcher, that could be lights out.
This will likely be the plan. The fort in top lane is made out of, bot lane, sorry, is made out of paper mache. The keep is still up though, so this would be a rough game-ending push if that was the intention. Nice dodge by Sorry there.
Oh, actually, that was much trickier than it looked here in the gameplay. Like, you need to time your doggy roll perfectly so it won't interfere with the stunning zone from the Immortal. So, tricky play, risky play, but Arthur's coming with a massive flank.
Moving in, the Divine Shield is used on Hanzo. Dragon Arrow, once again, point-blank range. So little damage and stun being dropped from it. Malthael in the Cocoon. Tormented Souls is available. It did not interrupt the Tormented Souls, so he's just going to be able to pop out, pop the Tormented Souls, and move straight in. He hasn't even actually, he's now activated it. Moving in, trying to get the value here. Pulling into the backline, dropping as much healing as he can. Good stuff by 619, trying to get through the chance to escape. Another Holy Ground to try and help that as well as Druid is focused here. Sanctification, the chance to turn it round, but the health bars are basically non-existent for BTG. And they fall back to what could possibly in the past have been called a fort, but is barely there now.
CJC on the Tyrael here with massive plays, dropping the Holy Ground near Malthael when he was about to pop out the Cocoon, so that Soa would have a harder time to actually close in on him, and then dropping another Holy Ground to keep Soa at bay with a pursuit for a little longer. He basically made sure that none of his teammates ended up dying here, which was so important because otherwise they could have actually, Soa could have actually pushed the bottom fort as it is, but as it is as well, it is still going to prove to be a little bit of an obstacle here that the Punisher, the Immortal, excuse me, needs to punch through first. So big plays by Soa, but really well salvaged by Beyond the Game and especially CJC.
So are all ported, by the way. They are committed to this now. It's a big shield, and they all are now full health and full mana. They're beginning to move into this bot lane with a beautiful route onto Tyrael and Muradin here. Tyrael shielding Muradin, trying to keep him alive. Here comes the boss stuns, trying to zone him out. Avatar having to be popped to keep 619 alive.
Expulsion is good.
Dragon Arrow and the expulsion zone. Like you said, good value. Tormented Souls to try and keep him alive is not enough. Arthur's roots all over the place. Fury roots prevents Muradin from leaving. You can't go anywhere, son. Down goes Druid. And it's just a poor Hanzo trying desperately to save the game on his own. He keeps himself alive, but what can he do for his base, Kendrick? As Soa are moving in, they are going to take the core, and they will move on with the 3-1 to play against the 1 for that spot in the Eastern Clash.
Team Soa doing what many people thought they couldn't. They take this victory, they take this series as well, advancing to the next round. They're happy about it. And on top of that, the icing on the cake, they did it with Sori, a new player they haven't really played together with in the regular season. Beyond the game finally put to a stop here after dominating both previous best of 5s, and Soa is on the way to maybe represent China at the Eastern Clash. Finally, we could say, because this team has been improving season after season. They started over again.
Really, really good, and